Sometimes, as researchers, we worry about the extent to which parents think there's a right and a wrong way to be a parent. We want the best for our children, and we want to make sure we give them a life that is as good or better than the life we have. And I think what we want and what we crave are instructions. But one of the things that makes today different than in the past is the ability to compare. We have input not just from our family, who's always had opinions, or our neighbors, but social media and the internet. And we can always find somebody who's doing it better. And that comparison can add to stress.
In this episode, we're going to move our focus to the center of all of this, your family, how to parent your particular kid, and how to manage your own stress while doing so. And remind yourself, you are a good enough parent. And right now, entering into this class, you already are everything. This is just meant to give you a little bit more ease and some tools.
It can be hard to unlearn the expectations we have about being a parent. We go through life often wanting rules, wanting guidelines. And the thing about being a parent and having a child is that you're creating a relationship. And there's some rules for relationships: kindness, consideration, understanding the needs of the other in relation to your own needs. That's the foundation.
According to the research, the three main parenting approaches are permissive, authoritarian, and authoritative. When you have super high control, super high boundaries and limits, and low sensitivity, you get authoritarian parenting. It's fear-based. It tends to be problematic because you don't have connection and sensitivity to balance out those strong, high expectations, control, boundaries, limits. And what it can lead to is covert behavior, dangerous behavior, because again, it's more scary to think of a parent finding out that you've done something wrong than anybody else, or than even being in trouble or in harm's way. On the flip side, you get parents who are highly sensitive, incredibly connected, best friend parenting, but that tends to be what's called permissive parenting. And so what it does is it says, your discomfort and distress is so scary to me, the parent, that I'll change my rules to suit your mood. That's not a safe feeling. There's no one saying, I'm gonna keep you emotionally and physically safe with my boundaries and limits. I'm just gonna be best friends with you. The balanced place is when you're both highly sensitive, connected, tuned, and also you have clear limits and boundaries. That is authoritative parenting. I like to say, all feelings are welcome. That's the sensitive part. All behaviors are not. Those are the limits. And if you just keep asking yourself, did I honor the feeling? And was I clear about the behavior that's expected? You're good. And all the science keeps leading in that direction. So for example, if your child says, I'm sad when you tell me I have to go to bed, you can say, that makes sense. You don't want to go to bed right now, but sleep is part of health, and it's my job to keep you healthy. In that way, you're basically saying, I can't change that limit just because you're sad about it. That simple, authoritative, closely connected with safe limits and boundaries, that parenting approach has been around for decades. It's continued to be the approach in science that leads to the most positive outcomes, both for children's social and emotional well-being and for their cognitive development. When there's clarity, when there's consistency, and when rules make sense, kids really thrive. Please don't mistake having these approaches rooted in the science for telling you what personality to have. Your personality is your personality. Your family sounds and smells and tastes and all the fun things that make us different and unique are wonderful. And those need to be honored and can be honored in the context of this authoritative caregiving. A family mission statement is a North Star for who you want to be as a parent and what kind of family you're growing. In order to create a family mission statement, you have to do a lot of reflection about what matters to you and what your values are. I'm the grandchild of Holocaust survivors. It's a very common thread that the offspring and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors are pretty invested in understanding human resilience. So for my family, adaptability was one of our core values. I want you to think about what values ring true for you. And that will help you develop your family's mission statement. The easiest way to think about it is, I can't have every value be part of my family mission statement because it's overwhelming. So one way is to say to yourself, in this family, we believe, and then pick 3 to 5 values that really resonate with you. That becomes your family mission statement, and it can be used to determine your family's priorities and your rules. So let's say that one of the things that's really important in your family mission statement is education. Then of course you're gonna have a rule about how much time you're giving to homework, or what schools you're going to choose, or how much reading time you're requiring. If kindness is on your list, then a lot of your rules are probably gonna be about the language that you use with other people or the volunteer work that you do. There's no right or wrong answer, but they will guide you to see whether or not, does this relate to my values? If not, throw it out. Sometimes the hardest thing about being a parent is other parents' choices. For a variety of reasons and circumstances, families value different things. Defining your core values helps you explain your rules to your kids in tough conversations.
Some of my favorite research in really the whole history of psychology is around what we call rupture and repair. These moments where we get into a bad place with our kid and then we come back together and find our way out and through. Now, ruptures are just gonna happen. They're just a natural part of family life. Your kid is gonna say something that they wish they hadn't. When it happens, go out of your way to try to make it right.
When researchers looked at this, what is the healthy relationship between the parent and child? These healthy, securely attached relationships were connected 30% or so of the time, and the rest was rupture and repair. That bar is manageable. That is the reality of parenting. That's the reality of healthy parenting.
Now, sometimes the ruptures are caused by us, the parents. We make mistakes as parents. We have bad days. We say things we wish we hadn't. Our kids know when we've messed up. Some adults worry that if they apologize to their child, explain where they were coming from, or ask for forgiveness, that they will lose authority with their kid, especially with their teenager. Here's the thing. Our teenagers know we are human. Our kids probably know our flaws better than anybody else. Denying them, trying to cover them up, trying to pretend they're not there, is the fastest route to losing your authority with your kid. Being willing to own your shortcomings and even better, work on them, is part of how you maintain a good working relationship with your kid. So let's say you've had a really long day at work, you come home, your kid does something annoying, and you are really sharp with them. They storm off to their room, unhappy with how you've treated them. Take a moment, take a breath, get your feet back under you, and then go on up to their room, knock on their door, and say, hey, can we talk? I owe you an apology. So in that moment, you might say something like, look, I was really sharp with you in a way you didn't deserve. Here's an explanation. It's not an excuse. I had a really long day, and when you talked to me like that, I just didn't have the patience that I should have. Now, you can further say to them, you also know that if you talk to me that way, it's not always gonna go well. That doesn't mean you deserve how I spoke to you, but we know each other well enough that we can probably stay out of jams like this going forward.
You don't need to fear that one mistake, one disconnect, one misstep means, I guess this is over, because you can understand rupture and repair as a part of the normal everyday. We're not as hard on ourselves. We allow mistakes for ourselves. And that is why repair is not just between parent and child or between partners, but it's actually between ourselves. Just privately in our own hearts, I made a mistake. I forgive myself. I'm gonna give myself some room to grow. And as you get more and more comfortable with this, you'll see that you're not afraid of mistakes because you have this repeated experience of coming back together and being reconnected.
Remember when your kid was little and they were running towards you and then they fell down and they scraped their knee and they looked at their knee and they looked at you? That's a moment where we pull on what we call co-regulation as parents, which is we know that our reaction is going to dictate our kid's reaction. Usually in those moments, we are awesome. We look at our kid and we say, you're okay, you're okay. Even if deep inside we're actually wondering, uh-oh, that might be stitches. But we know that if we go, our kid's gonna go, and it's gonna make it worse. Co-regulation is when two people help each other regulate their emotions, particularly in moments of stress or dysregulation. So, as parents, co-regulation is managing our own internal response to our kids' distress to help them manage their response to their distress. It is not always easy, and it's especially hard if we're tired or worn down or feeling upset about something. And we've got some room to work here. You don't have to get this right every time. But if most of the time when your kid is upset, you can respond in a way that is calm and steady, invested but not anxious, you can help your kid feel like whatever they're going through, they're going to be able to manage it.
And what we forget is that from the first days of life all the way into adolescence, they are observing us. They are absorbing us, and they see the ways in which we react to the world, the way in which we react with joy, or the ways we react with frustration or anger to things that happen to us. And it's not to say that parents can't have emotions, that they can't be authentic. But we have to be conscious of the fact that if we don't regulate, and if we are reactive, if we show emotions that are out of scope, that are impacting the child, even though it really isn't due to events that are about the child, they'll pick up on that. And they'll begin to see, oh, I can't talk to my mom about that. She'll get really angry. Or if I talk to my dad about this, he won't understand. So part of our job is not to be perfect. But what parents can do is show how we deal with our emotions, how we self-regulate, and we give our children those tools as opposed to just letting it all go out into the world.
When we look at the research on gender and emotion, what we see is that by elementary school, girls enjoy a much wider, what I would call emotional highway than boys do. Girls feel comfortable expressing and talking about sadness, anger, frustration, anxiety, disappointment. Boys very quickly are reduced to a very small, I would say, two-lane road. The two emotions that boys are sanctioned to express by their peers are anger and pleasure at someone else's expense. One of the things that research tells us is that by elementary school, a lot of boys come to the conclusion that feelings are for girls. Now, of course, boys feel all the same emotions that all other kids do. And it comes at a great cost if they are left with the impression that they're not allowed to show the full range of their emotion. And what we see is when they have vulnerable emotions, when they feel sad, when they feel anxious, when they feel afraid, they now have two problems. They both have the uncomfortable feeling, and they have their discomfort about letting anybody know that that's what's going on. Now, what the research also tells us is that in two-parent heterosexual homes, the person most likely to ask questions about feelings or talk about feelings is the mom. So what may be happening is in this well-meaning effort to develop emotional fluency, that mom may be unwittingly proving his point. So what I will say for boys everywhere is that it's really important that the men in their lives, be it their dads, their coaches, their teachers, their neighbors, their uncles, talk openly about their emotional experience and the full range of their emotional experience to effectively model for boys that men do have and do get to express a wide range of emotion.
It's really common for us to get male parents in our office, dads who are sitting there and who are kind of saying, like, my dad wasn't like this. Like, my dad was sort of distant, or he spent a lot of time in his study, or he was at work a lot, or he kind of was more annoyed by children's presence than he was wanting to play. And here I am being told I should be playing with my kids on the weekend. I should be putting them to bed. I should be loving on them and hugging them. But who's going to teach me how to do that? And that's where we say to parents, like, look, parenting is ridiculously uncomfortable to begin with. And so part of this is just tolerating the fact that you're going to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then how can we take little incremental steps that test out you being an attachment figure in different ways than anyone might have been with you? So more often than not, we want dads to think in a broad way about what the role of father looks like, and to feel like it's a choose your own adventure of how they can sort of, lean into different parenting roles that maybe previous generations weren't as familiar in playing. And what I find myself doing is trying to help them see the developmental benefit of talking about these things early and often, of making sure that their sons can label their emotions, can talk about their emotions, and can then see how that's going to reverberate across every major relationship in their life in terms of seeing the kind of reward of social connection with friends across the spectrum, seeing how that will actually play out in their romantic relationships, and seeing how that's going to help them weather stress.
Something that you can do with your kids is just mirror what they say back to you. You can say something like, I want to make sure I understand, and then say what they told you in your own words. So you're basically gently observing and mirroring back what your child is telling you. And you're moving slowly so that they don't feel overwhelmed, and so that you're giving space for them to share with you. We can't really talk about parenting without talking about temperament. If you think about flowers, the seed is already decided and planted, and then the amount of sunlight, water, and soil that particular flower needs is going to vary. And children are the same. You cannot plant a particular temperament. Temperament is a feature of who you are that basically says, what is our natural way of responding to the environment?
I'm a temperament researcher. And what I do is I study the ways in which the traits that children bring into the world shape who they become. We can think about temperament as the biological basis of personality. What happens is that we read the parenting books and it tells us 6 weeks to sleep train your infant. My child never made it through 6 weeks of sleep training. That happened and it took years. Or you look at your neighbor and they have this chill child that sleeps well, eats well, has a lot of great social interactions, and you start thinking, I did something wrong as a parent. But that's not what parenting is. Parenting is creating a relationship with this child, and this child will come into the world with his or her own temperament. And it's learning how to interact with them. Just like if you went on a first date or you met someone new at work, you can't go in with the expectations, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and that person will react with D. That probably won't work at work. It won't work in your social life. It won't work in parenting. Your temperament can be summarized broadly as the biological basis of your personality. It determines how you move through life and interact with people. There are 3 things we should understand about temperament. It's biologically based. We can see temperament differences in the first months of life, and these differences are stable over time. No! Now, we don't think of biology as deterministic. You have your canvas, you have your clay, but from that you create a lot. And what we look at is how does temperament shape the direction of a child's life? In the research literature, we often use shorthand analogies, and one that we use a lot is the orchid and the dandelion. We can think of the orchid as this beautiful flower that when you see it is gorgeous, it's delicate, it's rare, but it needs specific soil and humidity and sun. And those children, our orchid children, have a lot of potential. They can do a lot of things, but they're a little delicate. The conditions have to be just right. And that can be hard on a parent because they need to learn for this particular orchid what's too much, what's not enough. But when you get it, it's a glorious thing. Most of us, like me, are dandelions. We grow. Sometimes we grow through concrete. Sometimes we get pulled and 2 days later we pop up again. So we only need the median light, the median temperature, the just so amount of water, and we're gonna grow and we're gonna be fine and we're gonna be resilient. In fact, we're pretty tough. The dandelion adapts to their environment. The orchid needs a little more help in doing that. I think one of the dangers we can have is that we assume because dandelions are resilient, we don't have to do anything special for them. And in fact, we can be dismissive. We can be too harsh with them. We can have them face adversities and events in their life that aren't developmentally appropriate for them. Yes, our children are resilient. No, we don't have to be perfect parents. But we do have to take care that we don't overinterpret resilience for imperviousness. One of the jokes we often make as temperament researchers is that parents start to think temperament is real when they have their second child. Because often you have your first child, you think you've taken on parenting, you've got it down pat, you have your strategies, and then the second child shows up and none of those strategies work because it's a different child. And so, for example, you might have one child that's much more adamant about how things should be. I want this, I want that, we need to do this. And when it doesn't happen that way, they're more reactive. While the other child is more go with the flow, doesn't want to make a fuss, doesn't want to be the center of attention. And you're tempted to decrease the temperature, to avoid the fights by accommodating the child that's more reactive. And there's a problem with that. One, that child who's more reactive never learns to modulate, never learns to be part of the group. And for the dandelion, they never learn to have a voice, to say, no, I'm not going to have a fit if I don't get my way, but I do have opinions and I do have preferences and they should be honored. So part of parenting is to move this child up a little bit, move this child down a little bit, not to favor one or the other, but that they can work together and be part of a much more healthy, fulfilling, and balanced world where we all give and we all take. We want our children to feel successful. We want our children to feel accomplished. But we can't always guarantee that their success and their accomplishments are in areas that are easy for us. And so when we have a child who naturally is good at sports or is good at particular academic pursuits, it's easy for us to get the win. My child won the track meet. My child won the spelling bee or got straight A's. And sometimes, though, our children don't necessarily fit into those neat categories. But sometimes we have children who are wonderful artists, who are writers, who are cooks, who create social bonds better than others. And that's their niche. So find authentic, real places where they succeed. And we're going to celebrate that, and we're going to value that. It's finding their niche. And in that niche, they win. One of the great things about being a parent is that you are creating a relationship with another person. And in creating that relationship, there is no perfection. So when we talk about temperament, we say that it's biologically based and it shapes the way the child responds to their world. And what that means is that the child is bringing something into the equation of this relationship between parent and child. And what temperament says is, yeah, we shape our children. But our children are individuals. They have strengths and weaknesses and desires. And the joy of parenting is getting to know them and getting them to grow into those strengths.
You've learned how crucial it is to manage your stress. We've taught you some of the parenting relationship fundamentals. Now, in episode 3, we'll learn about systems that build resilience.